Hello and welcome to Building My December TBR. I may also title this video I failed at my November TBR, so let's have a look which books I'm bumping to December. Or we could also call this video I overestimated my ability to read the books on my 10 before the end quick enough, so watch me make a list in panic. There's going to be a couple of things different about this. First off, I said I was never going to carry books over from the previous month's TBR unless absolutely necessary. I don't know if I said that publicly. I said that to myself. Only because otherwise, I start off with good intentions, and if a book just isn't calling me in the moment and then I keep putting that book back on my monthly TBR and I never get to it, what am I doing to myself? So the rule I made to myself is kind of out of the window for this one, because there are some books that are both on my TBR for November and on my 10 before the end that I need to read that I didn't get to, so I bumped them to this month. And then it's also going to work slightly differently because I usually have a TBR jar and I want to pick one or two options a month from that, and those are full of recommendations from you guys. Some of those recommendations are books I have on my shelf, some of those recommendations are books that I don't own but you guys really love, and I'm not going to be picking from it this month just because I already have so much to get through. Reflecting on my November TBR, look, I am happy with the structure that it gave me, and I did more or less stick to that TBR. I think why I didn't manage to read all the books that I had planned on reading in November, okay, it was a couple of reasons. One reason was I actually was doing a lot of knitting and a lot of other things, and I listened to a number of audiobooks in the month of November, and I didn't necessarily have audiobooks for the books that were on my TBR, and I didn't have any Audible credits, so I ended up listening to a couple of things that I wasn't planning to. So even though I read the amount of books I was planning to in November, there was some in there. Look, I'm a mood reader. TBRs very rarely work for me, but I'm trying to introduce some more structure to my life because I have a never-ending TBR list that I need to get through. I think the other reason I didn't quite get to these books on my TBR is because I underestimated the fact that I'd put books on my November TBR that the sequels then released for, and they took up time. One example of that is The Wolf King. I know technically, well, at the time I'm filming this anyway, Booktube The Night Prince isn't out traditionally published. However, it is available on Kindle Unlimited, so I did just read Book 2 straight after. I actually audiobooked both of those. The audiobooks are fantastic. And then at the time I'm filming this, I haven't started it yet, but I think the rest of my month is going to be taken up by Quicksilver and Brimstone. Again, I hadn't quite accounted for the fact that Brimstone is out now. Look, I set my TBR at the beginning of the month when the only one out was Quicksilver. Anyway, to cut a long story short, let's dive into the books I'm going to be tackling in the month of December. And this is in no particular order. This is a book I've been meaning to read for months, but I've been lying to myself if I thought that picking this up before December 1st was possible. I don't know what it is about me. I can't read Christmas books unless I'm in the month of December. It's just my brain cannot engage with them. Good Spirits by B.K. Borison is one of my most anticipated reads of the year. I'm not really a festive romance girly. I've read a couple and enjoyed a couple, but it's not like every Christmas I'm like, ooh, what's going to be my festive romance of the year? This year, however, I'm very excited to dive into this one. I've really enjoyed other books I've read by B.K. Borison. I actually think the premise of this sounds so fascinating and unique and so different for a festive romance, and I think I'm going to love this. I'm even more so excited to read this because I did get the chance to meet B.K. Borison. We went for Sunday lunch and I got to hear her talk a little bit about this book, and I got to saw one of the beautiful special editions that they brought out on that day as well. So if anything, my excitement for this has risen. Also, all of my friends, literally everybody that I know that has read this has been telling me how much I'm going to love it, how fantastic it is, how it deserves 13 out of 5 stars. So I'm going to read you, and I'm probably really going to enjoy this. I'm in two minds about whether to pick this up right at the beginning of the month. A, to give me a break from some of the more kind of heavier romantasy that I've been reading recently in those kind of more intricate fantasy worlds. It might give me a nice kind of bit of brain space. I sometimes find reading something that feels more contemporary or that is, a standalone romance helps me break up those bigger series. It will also help me get in the festive mood right at the beginning of December. And then the other part of me is like, no, save this for when you finish work and you've got that week before Christmas and you're just going to be chilling and reading and eating food. So I'm in two minds. I don't know where I'm going to pick this up. I guess we'll see. Again, I've heard the audiobook on this one is fantastic. My Audible yearly subscription is about to renew and I'm about to get 12 new credits. So maybe I might treat myself to an audiobook listen of this. If you're watching this video and you have read Good Spirits either on audio or in a print version, let me know what you thought. Did you enjoy the book? But also specifically if you listen to it on audio, is it worth me picking up the audiobook and listening to it instead? I should probably mention there are 6 books on this list. I do usually anticipate reading 9 or 10 books a month, and I was so tempted to add a few from my TBR jar into this month, but I think I'm just going to overwhelm myself. But also, something I forgot about that is currently happening is the Ali Hazelwood and other authors After the End romance Kickstarter. Look, I back that Kickstarter. I'll do an unboxing of it when it arrives because I couldn't decide between the paperbacks and the hardbacks, so I grabbed both. I bought both the hardbacks and the paperbacks with the plan in mind that when they both get here and I see them in person, I can decide which one I prefer. And then I had quite a few friends that didn't get a chance to back the Kickstarter that would have got the physical copies but just couldn't afford it at the time, and they've already said, like, if you get rid of one, let me know which one and I'll send you the money and I'll grab them then. So I'll do an unboxing of when those arrive. Anyway, I've gone off on a tangent. There is a reason I'm mentioning this. The reason I've picked 6 books for the month of December is because I fully want to read some of those after the end dystopian romance books before the end of the year. There's also a brand new Ali Hazelwood audiobook. What is that called? I've seen it in passing. Again, I need my Audible credits back. I'm really suffering the lack of Audible credits right now. But I really enjoyed Ali Hazelwood's last year, the short novella that came out, Two Can Play. And I read that near Christmas. Long story short, I'm saving some space on my TBR so I can read those novellas and potentially that audiobook as well. But also December's busy. Like, I have plans and I might not make it through all of these books anyway. Next up on the list is a book that has come over from November. I feel so bad that I haven't read this yet. I had no idea what this was until it got sent to me, and then I've just seen it getting so popular online. And this is Air of Illusion by Madeline Taylor. I think I said this in my November TBR video when I was talking about this book, but one of my friends says this is her favourite book ever. Not of the year, not of the month, ever. Her favourite book of all time. So it was really, really high on my November TBR, but this is one that unfortunately I just didn't get round to because of all of those sequels coming out and me taking a little bit longer than usual to read some books in November. This released in November, so the book is already out now and has been out for a little bit, but it also means that I've been able to see a lot of the initial hype and a lot of positive reviews around this. I don't have too much to say about this one other than the fact that the hype is absolutely getting to me and I feel like I'm missing out on something here. I don't even know that much about the story. I've intentionally tried to, like, minimize the amount that I'm seeing about this because I don't want A, any spoilers, and B, I don't want to be influenced by anything. I want to enjoy this as it is if it's going to be as good as people are saying it is. But I generally love romantasy. It's the genre that I read the most in, and I do think I'm probably going to like this. Let's be honest, I'm picking books I think I'm going to like. So Air of Illusion, I'm sorry I didn't get to you in November, but I'm really going to try and read you in December. Whilst I'm talking about the books that got bumped from November into December, there was Air of Illusion, and then there was only one of the one, and that was Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. There's no specific reason this got bumped again other than I just ran out of time. I did think the other day maybe I'd tackle this in January, but I am going to press on and try and read this in December. The issue with this is I know for a fact when I finish book 1 I'm going to want to immediately read book 2 and 3. So when I'm getting to the end of November and I was like looking at how much time I had left in the month, I was like, I'm going to read Quicksilver and Brimstone, for example, because it's 2 books rather than like a series that was 3. So that's why this one got bumped out. It wasn't because I was less interested in it or I just like picked it up and was like, no, not today. I'm actually really excited to read this. I just did not get around to it. I ran out of time. There were only so many days in November, and unfortunately I didn't have enough days to make it round to this. That's the other reason I've put 6 on this list. I'm trying to give myself a bit of breathing room, A, for those novellas, potentially some audiobooks, who knows, maybe I'll read loads in December, but also because I imagine I'm going to want to read this, and then book 2, and then book 3. For that reason, I might try and position this at the end of December, just so if I am reading it, I know, like, there's no pressure for me to immediately read books 2 and 3 and rush through them because I've got loads of other books to read. At least I know I can read book 1 in December, and I can always pick up books 2 and 3 straight afterwards in January or at the end of December if I have more time. But I know if I start with this and then I get sucked into the Everflame like pit, it means I won't read some of the other books on this list, and then I'll get sad, and then I'll be doing this again next month and I'll be like, here are the books I meant to read in December that I didn't. But Spark of the Everflame, I will read you. I've promised my friend Beth I will read you by the end of the year. Also, I've met Penn Cole a few times now and she is absolutely lovely, and I said this when I picked this book for my November TBR, but again, I've watched a friend read this book cover to cover on a flight to America, and I heard every gasp, every like cry, every tear, every like laugh, and now I'm just like, I need to know what's going on in this book, please. Also, I have this really pretty like US paperback edition that they do. I don't know what it is with US books at the minute. They're doing a lot of this, like, I keep calling it matte foil. I don't know what it is. Like the actual, I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, the actual background is like shimmery. I don't know. They do this on like, they did it on their Fourth Wing hardback and they've done it on the new Shield of Sparrows hardback. I don't know what it is. I don't know what they call it. It's like matte metallic background. I don't know. It's pretty. The next book is one of my most anticipated releases of 2025. It just so happens to be that it came out in November and it is by one of my favourite authors of all time, and that is Fallen City by Adrienne Young. I'm scared of this one. I really genuinely love everything that I've read by Adrienne Young. I think I own over 20 of her books. Normally, my favourites are her adult like magical realism fantasies, and then also I like Fable and Namesake and Saint and that whole world. This is a brand new world and a brand new adult fantasy for Adrian Young. I think one of the reasons that I'm a little bit hesitant with this one is it is based on ancient Rome, or has some ancient Roman mythology woven into the fantasy, and I don't know what it is. I am never really one for reading books that are really heavily influenced by different types of historical mythologies, like Greek mythology, Roman mythology. However, that being said, I really, really loved An Ember in the Ashes, which is a fantasy world also based around kind of ancient Rome and Roman mythology and folklore. And that one blew me out of the water. It's one of my favourite fantasy series ever, so maybe I will like this too. Along a similar line though, I read Blood of Hercules and hated it. So I think this is definitely going to sit closer on the Saba Tahir side than on the Blood of Hercules Jasmine Mass side of that Roman mythology and fantasy. But even the cover, actually, this is a really beautiful Fairyloot edition. But even the covers, actually, if this wasn't by Adrian Young and I didn't already know that I loved her writing style, I don't know that I would see this. And I mean, I pick it up because it was pretty, but I'd probably pick it up and go, oh, cute, ancient Rome, and put it down. But I believe in Adrian Young. I believe in the fact that I love all of her stuff so far. I believe that this edition is beautiful. The edition is making me want to read it more, if anything. It has beautiful character art in as well, if you haven't seen this edition. I did a full unboxing of this on my TikTok, actually. I believe I'm going to like you. Another very important point to make about this list is all 6 of these are the books that are on my 10 before the end that I have not read yet. So even though Air of Illusion and Spark of the Everflame are on my November TBR, they were also on my 10 before the end. So all 6 of these actually are books that I've told myself and I've told you guys publicly I will read before the end of the year. It actually made setting this December TBR like the easiest TBR setting I've ever done, because I was basically like, what have I said I'm going to read before the end of the year? How many books is it? Oh great, it's 6. That's about how many I pick. Great, there's my list. This is the one that if I don't get to it, it is fine. This is A Dark Forgetting by Kristen Ciccarelli. Now the reason it's fine is not because I'm going to be fine. I'm actually desperate to read this, but this doesn't actually come out until February. I absolutely loved the Crimson Moth and the Rebel Witch duology. And then I recently bought as well Kristen Ciccarelli's other series, the Last Namsara series, or that has a different name. What is it called? This one. I recently bought this trilogy off the back of loving the Crimson Moth so much, but I haven't got around to this one yet. However, I hold in my hands a proof of one of my most anticipated re-releases of 2026. I say re-release, I don't think this has ever been released in the UK, but I think it's previously been released in just the US under a different name. I think it was originally called Edgewood. There will be somebody that knows better than I do whether this has gone through extensive re-editing or whether it is literally just the Edgewood text but republished. I seem to think it has changed. It is different than the original Edgewood. I think Kristen has gone back in and made some edits, but I don't know how extensive that has been. Nonetheless, I didn't have a copy of Edgewood. It wasn't on my radar, but A Dark Forgetting certainly is. This looks fantastic. I'm very excited to read it. But as I said, as it doesn't come out till February, I think I'm going to be keeping this closer towards the end of December and focusing more of my priority on some of the other titles on this list. But not because I think I'm going to love you any less. In fact, I think you're going to be one of my favourite reads when I get around to you. I have one last book on this list, and this book is kind of in line with how I felt about Quicksilver, in the fact that I just feel like I'm missing out by not having read this yet. It was on my 10 before the end. I didn't put it in my TBR for November because I kind of wanted to have like Quicksilver in one month and this one in the other. And this one had a sequel coming out later than Brimstone. The book is Metal Slinger by Rachel Schneider. This is a beautiful Fairyloot edition, just in case you've never seen it. This is on here for the same reason everything else is on here. It's on my 10 before the end, but I guess the reason it's on my 10 before the end is actually I have no excuse for why I haven't read this yet. I have behind me, I'm not sure if you can see it, the indie copy of Metal Slinger. I've had this book for a while, and I think this year has definitely been my year of romantasy. I usually read a lot of it anyway, but I think in previous years I've balanced it more out with more dark romance, more contemporary romance, more high and epic fantasy. This year has been my romantasy year. It is pretty much all I've read all year. So it's fine that I haven't got around to, but I am very much looking forward to doing so. Also, I've pre-ordered, in fact, I've also got this side behind me, the Waterstones edition of this book. Why do I have 3 copies of a book I haven't read yet? But I've also got pre-ordered Lightwielder book 2 in the Waterstones exclusive, and then also I'll be picking up the Fairyloot edition. So I just need to read you to decide if I need all of these sequels or not. I used to be terrible at doing this. I think at one point I had like 12 copies of Fourth Wing. I have managed to cut that down significantly significantly. But sometimes when a book releases and there's loads of hype about it, I just feel the need to have every special edition that's going. And then sometimes I end up reading the book and I go, you know what, I enjoyed that, but not enough that I need a bajillion special editions. I can unhaul these off my shelves and make some space for other things. So I'm trying to get ahead of the game with this one. I think I'm going to like it, but just on the off chance, I'm like, that one's fine, but I don't need the Waterstones for Fairy Lou and the indie. Like, I can maybe get rid of the Waterstones one or something like that. This one I have no preference of when I read it. I think this one and Air of Illusion are the, and Sparkle the Everflame, to be fair, are like the three that feel really romantasy heavy compared to the other ones on the list, in terms of like being not similar, but like familiar within that romantasy genre. Even though the other ones are mixes of fantasy and romance, these ones feel the most #romantasy. Does that make sense? So I'll probably just space it out a little bit with those titles, make sure I'm reading other things in between. I really like the quote they've gone with on the back of this edition as well. It says, "You're kind of beautiful when you lie." Who's lying? What are they lying about? I have to know. That is all the books I'm going to be trying to tackle in December. As I said earlier on in the video, I'm going to try and give myself some grace. Now, I am significantly behind where I need to be to reach my reading goal. At the moment, I need to finish another 17 books to meet my reading goal. I envisage finishing another 3. I'm currently filming this in November, if you hadn't clocked on. So I take those 3 and these 6, that is still, how many books is that? My math is terrible. Math is not my strong point, but I think like 8. So I don't think I'm gonna meet my reading goal on Goodreads of 120 books this year, which is absolutely fine. I'm happy to fail at that. However, I have been known in the past to be absolutely feral in December, and there are a number of novellas that I'm going to be trying to read. As I mentioned, those After the End novellas and that shorter audiobook by Ali Hazelwood that's released recently. So who knows, maybe I will just end up getting loads of reading done in the month of December and I will meet my 120 books goal. I'd love to know what you guys are prioritizing reading in December, so do let me know in the comments below. Are any of these books on your December TBR, or have you read any of them and would be really pushing me to read them as soon as possible? And also, just a reminder, I have been so consistent with uploading long form content. Oh my god, it's been like 2 whole months of at least weekly videos. So if you have enjoyed this and you want to see me yap in long form more often, then make sure you are subscribing, liking the video and leaving a comment so I know that you guys want more of this. But other than that, thank you for watching and I will see you in the next one.